Hello and welcome to another episode of The Brave Room. Today, we do not have a guest today. It's me, the usual, Juan Amiral from Gamer Braves, and also with me today we have...
Kid, also likewise from Gamer Braves, and the other person in the Brave Room.
Yeah, we got some good locks this time. I'm just kidding. Those guests are all invited. There's no way to get into the Brave Room without us. Anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about. Today, we want to talk about RPGs. Because, as you all know, there are no more good ideas. All of them are taken. There's no more new IPs. So instead, we gotta make some new ones. Sequels.
And also, since we're all locked up at home anyway, so there's finally time to do those 9,000 side quests in every JRPG ever.
It's true. But like I said, our main thing we're gonna talk about is the RPGs that should have sequels. Not necessarily the RPGs we want. And I hope you guys have been writing in, because first of all, if this podcast hits 2K likes, 2K plays, we're legally required to do one of your topics. We're like the White House petitions right now. Make sure to type a comment, square brackets, serious suggestion, and I will consider those.
And then he wrote me in too.
Exactly. The other thing is, today we are going to be listening to Kit a lot more because I have learned that I am a freaking jock when it comes to RPGs. So, here's how it's gonna work. As we all know, making video games is incredibly easy. So we have a list. Kit has pre-submitted to me this list of RPGs that she wants a sequel to. And she's going to tell me why it should get a sequel. If it is, we'll just call Hideo Kojima and he'll make the RPG.
I do not want Hideo Kojima on the RPG.
He hasn't said he will make them. He'll just call someone who does. So, the first one on this list is Legend of Mana.
Well, the Mana series has actually pretty recently gotten a game in the remake of Trials of Mana. But I specifically want Legend of Mana because it's considered a spin-off, non-canonical part of the series, but I love it to bits, so therefore my wish must be granted.
Okay, so what's the name of the main series? Because it sounds like you're saying Legend of Mana isn't the main series name.
Yeah, the series name is generally referred to as the Mana series, or in Japanese it call it Seiken Densetsu.
Huh. Where does Legend of Mana fit in on the Mana timeline, I guess?
Well, earlier I mentioned it's non-canonical, so it does not...
I meant release-wise.
Release-wise, it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was either 1999 or 2000. So it's a legal adult now.
It's more than just a legal adult. It has a degree. It has a diploma at least.
Yeah, so I'm really showing my age here, but
I mean, okay, look. Wait, sidetrack. If you're talking about games from your childhood, then you better be an old person, because I see people being like, oh man, I grew up on Minecraft. Like, dude, what the hell? You're too young to be reminiscing about the past. You got so much to live for. Go add a few more years. I mean, yeah, Minecraft is great. But if you're under 24 minimum, you don't get to talk about being old.
Yeah, 25, that quarter of a century is when you start becoming a Christmas cake.
Yeah, exactly. And also, just keep looking forward to things, please. Anyways, we're getting off track. Legend of Mana. When was it declared non-canon?
I'm not exactly sure when this piece of information came out, but as the person starved for content, I went scouring and came across the bombshell that my most favorite game in this series is actually not officially part of the canon. So it was kind of earth-shattering news for a younger me.
Because I feel like you can't really market a game as not canon and have it be a bonus point, because comic book nerds have ruined everything, right? I mean, look at Kingdom Hearts 3. They said that the freaking Toy Story world is canon to Toy Story. this is a huge tangent on how much I hate comic book nerds. But yeah, apparently in Toy Story lore, Andy gets kidnapped by the Heartless. If
Alright.
you were to believe this story. Of course it's not canon to Toy Story. I hate it. But yeah, what's so good about Legend of Mana?
First of all, the art is pretty timeless. It's this watercolor 2D with a mix of 2D sprites that move around on the 2D plane. Well, but I guess art is subjective. But what's not subjective is the music, because it's done by the legend herself, Yoko Shimomura, whom everyone loves from Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, see, we brought it back. We brought it back to something I referenced like 20 seconds ago.
But yes, if nothing else, she needs to be back for the music. And it cannot be 3D. Please have a 2D game sometimes, okay? I know everyone loves 3D. Final Fantasy itself is moving into 3D action. But can we have 2D sometimes?
Yeah, no, okay. So we're talking about 3D versus 2D. Like, I love Octopath Traveler. Like how that game looks. That's one of the best looking RPGs I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Because it's literally just cardboard cutouts of 2D sprites set in a generic Unreal lighting engine. And it sounds like I'm slagging it off, but I'm not. Like, I legitimately think that's one of the best looking RPGs I've ever seen.
And Square is somehow surprised that it sold so well. Have you heard the music by Yasunori Nishiki? It's amazing. That's another great composer to have on board.
Is Octopath Traveler being de facto added to this list then? Because let's be real, the mobile game doesn't count. The mobile game doesn't freaking count.
Well, honestly, I'm not sure whether I advocate for that having a sequel, but because it's kind of new, so let's just focus on the old fogies stuff first.
Yeah, okay, I can accept that. Yeah, I'm looking through like screenshots of Legend of Mana now, like, oh my god, I forgot when RPGs had color.
Oh yeah, I actually kind of dissed the Xbox Live presentation before the Series X came out. I was like, it's so dreary, and suddenly Bandai Namco puts in Scarlet Nexus and suddenly it was like injection of color. Oh god.
The thing about Scarlet Nexus is also still quite grey. It's just that, you know, the animation has color on it. I'm looking at like Legend of Mana is just fully colored.
Yeah, and one of the best tracks in the game is like a 30 to 40 second loop of one specific area in the town they call Domina. People should know this if I say Diddle's soundtrack. So there's this specific performing duo, and one of them is like anthropomorphic. Is that how you say it?
Anthropomorphic, yeah.
Okay, he's basically a record player who's got mad anxiety, but the song he plays with his friend Capella is just amazing. It's so short, but it's so lively.
Okay, so it sounds like music is a really important thing for you then.
Yeah, I have to admit that I've bought Octopath Traveler solely for the music, because I heard the music before I got the game, and 13 Sentinels was also the same thing.
You know what? Fair enough. So here's an RPG that doesn't need to come back, like it needs to stay dead. There's Digimon World 2, but the music in that slaps.
I mean, you have the Cyber Sleuth games, those count, I guess.
No. This is going to be a rabbit hole. This is a once rabbit hole moment. We are gonna talk about how terrible Digimon World 2 is, and how this game needs to stay dead.
Alright.
So don't know if you remember, PlayStation 1 didn't actually have all that much space in retrospect. A lot of games had to do a lot of things to keep space safe and also have content for people to play. And how Digimon World 2 did this is its leveling system. So you catch a Digimon in the wild, it has a level cap of 13. Now, when you get it to level 13, you unlock DNA Digivolving, and you have to DNA Digivolve it with a second of that Digimon caught from the wild. which will create the same Digimon again. So for example, I really like Betamon. Get my Betamon to level 15, catch another Betamon, DNA Digivolve the two together, start back as a level 1 Betamon. But now the level cap is 14.
Okay, maybe that deserves an episode rant of all on its own.
Yeah, we'll come back to this in more detail, but Digimon World 2 is full of time wasting ways to pad out the fact that the game's actually not that long. My friend and I played it with some gray area emulators, and he had it set to 600% speed just so we could, actually play the game. But yeah, so we're talking about RPGs that should come back. Anything but Digimon World 2. That game, bye. Music still slaps though. that was my point. If you're listening to this, look up Digimon World 2 Battle Team. That shit's good. But yeah, okay, so Legend of Mana. Music's good. Anything else? Any good characters? I assume it's a normal turn-based RPG. Like there's no like killer mechanic.
Funnily enough, is the battle system is actually more real-time action-based. You slide around on the 2D plane and you attack and fight. There'll be some of the monsters will have how do you call it, tails. They will charge up and stuff. So yeah.
Is this the Dark Souls of Legend of Mana games?
Well, I don't think so, but things.
Okay, you know what? I will call Hideo. I'll tell him about this game because it sounds really cool. And I'll tell him 2D only, no 3D, and make sure it has color.
And you bring Yoko Shimamura back for the music.
Yeah, and bring Kingdom Hearts Lady back. So if I have to ask, is every game on this list just an RPG with a really good soundtrack?
Remind me what's the list again, please.
Okay, well, let's go on the next one then. Vagrant Story.
Vagrant Story. I'm actually not too familiar with that.
Oh, then that was a note from our dear producer son. Since neither of us know that, we can drop it. What about Legend of Dragoon then?
Legend of Dragoon, I'm also, sadly, the most I know about it was that it has kind of a funky battle system, and that's about it.
Okay, so really we were just here to talk about Legend of Mana then.
Listen, I put other games on that list that I'm familiar with. This is not just a love letter to Legend of Mana.
What about Final Fantasy Tactics?
Final Fantasy Tactics. I like the tactics game. It's technically back as War of the Visions, the good old gacha game. But I didn't personally play it myself.
Here's the thing. X game is back as a gacha game is like saying the Lich King has raised this dude as a Death Knight. Look, he's back to life. You're technically correct, but is it though? Like if I resurrected your loving husband as a Death Knight and he's now burning a village to the ground, is that still your husband? Would your husband burn down a village?
Well, I don't typically like husbands who burn down villages, I suppose.
Yeah, no. When he was your husband, he didn't burn down the village, but now that he's a Death Knight, he's burning down the village. Because that's the command of the Lich King.
Maybe I should exorcise him.
See, that's my point. So same thing. Is it back if it's a gacha game?
Technically back, but on technicality.
So here's the thing. I myself have never played Final Fantasy Tactics either. My best friend says it's his favorite Final Fantasy game ever. And I've noticed this trend that everybody who's played Final Fantasy Tactics seems to agree.
I saw a let's play of the second game that has a main protagonist whose clothing sense is really all over the place. But he's kind of
like any
cute.
Final Fantasy character.
I mean, he's literally got so much stuff tacked onto him for some reason. But he's cute, I guess. He's a son I would like to protect.
I should point out, there's one thing from Tactics that has come back, which is the freaking red chocobo.
Ah, yes. Available also in Final Fantasy XIV, whose free trial goes up to Heavensward.
It's true, the free trial goes up to Heavensward. You should totally download that right now. That's an inside joke. But yeah, no, the red chocobo made it out and is now terrorizing the multiverse of Final Fantasy. But yeah, Tactics has a really cool art style. I really like it. I just don't like Tactics games.
I mean, that's fair. That's honestly fair.
Like this is a weird topic because I'm not attached to any RPG series enough that I could say like, oh man, this RPG series totally needs to come back. But I can tell you mechanics that need to come back. So one of the greatest Final Fantasies of all times, tactics aside, of course, is Lightning Returns.
Okay, that's another rabbit hole. Let's not go there now.
No, I'm just saying this is a mechanic that needs to come back. Is the ATB system for Lightning Returns is pretty cool. And technically, 7 Remake does it better. 7 Remake is the natural evolution of Lightning Returns. And that's this has actually turned me off of turn-based RPGs, like 7 Remake's combat system. Because you know how before this people said, hey, you can't expect a turn-based RPG to play like an action game. Those two don't mix. And then 7 Remake comes on and is like, actually, they do mix. And now I see Persona 5 Royal and I'm just like, why can't you be more like that? Music's good, but Joker, why can't you move around while attacking?
Save some space for me. I love turn-based.
But see, that's the thing, you love turn-based. So, you're fine with turn-based the way they are. My problem is now that I am an impatient man-child who needs flashy combo on screen at all times. So yeah, going back to turn-based is hard.
Okay, what's
Think
next
of
on
it.
the list?
Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is Lunar.
Lunar. There was the last game I believe when I looked it up was back in 2012, Silver Star Complete. The one I'm familiar with is Eternal Blue, and it has, in my opinion, one of the best English dubbings I have ever heard, and the teams, Lucia's theme in English is far superior than the Japanese one.
Mm-hmm.
So
which team is the superior one, sir?
The English version Lucia's theme is much better than the Japanese one.
Huh.
Yeah, I've listened to it both, and I vastly prefer the English version.
But Japanese is the best.
Well, this one's another turn-based game where you
course.
can shuffle around a little bit more freely on the battlefield. So there are skills that require certain positionings, and honestly, I'm not that well versed in the game because I didn't play it myself. But there were bonus stuff like bromides. So at some points and certain events, you can unlock like extra CGs of the characters, and there are a couple of really good joke ones. I think some of you may know the notorious bathtub bromide, I hope.
Bathtub bromide?
Yeah.
Hold on, isn't his name Geralt of Rivia?
Unfortunately, not as hard as Geralt of Rivia. That's why it's a joke.
Wait, how do you spell that?
Which
I
one?
typed it in and I'm getting bathtub bromide.
Bromide. So there's one really fan service one with a really pretty girl, and the other one is slightly, marginally less pretty. But it's quite a fun actually.
Okay, I had to put the word lunar into it because I was just getting ads for bathtubs. That's my ad recommendations gonna be screwed up. So wait, so what are bromides?
I'm not exactly sure of the name, I'm sorry, but I know it exists. It has been seared into my brain.
Yeah, I'm seeing what. So the bromide is the girl or the bathtub?
It features the characters in the bathtub.
Okay, so it's like collectible cards then.
Yep. The story is pretty long, I believe, and
it's a JRPG, of course it's.
yeah, JRPGs, it do be like that. But again, this is another of the series where the music is just really good. The battle theme, the default battle theme is just kind of rocking it, you know?
I gotta say, I really like this whole retro anime art style the game's got as well.
Yeah, I am quite fond of it. Then since I'm more familiar with Eternal Blue, the relationship development between Lucia and Hiro was pretty nice, even though I think the ending is a bit sus.
We should have a podcast one day where we talk about game endings
Probably.
because I got words about those.
Game endings, and then there are protagonists too, because there are some protagonists who are just no comment.
But yeah, no. Okay, so I approve of Luna. Just so you know, we're gonna tell Hideo about this. Just because those bromide collections sound like a great way to spend some time.
Yep. And you get story in between too, because you need to go through certain events before you can get some of them, and the bonus ones, of course.
You said it's turn-based, right?
Yep. But it's a bit more positional than maybe, like, say, Persona, where you just stand in a line and everyone takes their turn.
So it's like Yakuza then.
Sorry?
So it's like Yakuza then, because Yakuza is actually quite position-based as well.
Well, so the most I know about Yakuza is Bakamitai, so...
No, just specifically talking about 7, because 7 is one that's a turn-based RPG.
Eventually, I'll get round to it.
Okay, I need to know what this is, because this is an amazing name. Next on this list, Wild Arms.
Wild Arms, yes. The theme song with Ayumi Hamasaki was really great. It's the one that stuck in my head for like the rest of time. This one is also turn-based. The setting is kind of like Western and steampunk type, and there's one of them that has the ending that really blow your mind kind of thing, so I won't say much more about that. Well, honestly, the system was pretty cool, and JRPG protagonists with guns.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the first image up is this guy who was the power of gun.
It itself actually had a gacha game, but it shut down last year, so that's the last of Wild Arms for quite a bit, I suppose. Because otherwise,
oh my god, it's by Exceed.
Oh, you published it?
Yeah, Wild Arms 4 was published by Exceed.
I think the one I'm thinking about is 3 with Ayumi Hamasaki's theme song. But yeah, I'd say it should come back solely because of the whole gun Wild West kind of steampunk JRPG style. Why shouldn't that come back?
We need cowboy RPGs. Is basically the closer I can get to playing Cowboy Bebop, the better it is. So stamp in Wild Arms, gets the approval. So far, what I've realized is we're doing every game so far has been approved except for Digimon World 2. All right, so our final game on this list, we are gonna take a look at Seventh Dragon. Kit, what's the case for Seventh Dragon?
Seventh Dragon has music by Sasakura UK.
Once again, music.
Yeah, but this time I actually got the game because dragons. I'm honestly pretty simple. You can hook me with giant robots, 13 Sentinels, great music, again 13 Sentinels, and Octopath, and probably a few other games that I've forgotten, and dragons, which is Seventh Dragon. Seventh Dragon is a more obscure series. It's got a few games originally.
Does it always have this chibi look to it?
Yeah, it did start out on the DS, so you have this really chibi look. But later on, Shiro Miwa, I think. I'm actually not sure. Maybe I should cut that out. Later on, they had sprites that look a bit more adult and realistic, but still anime-esque. But the chibi figures are still kept the same.
I like how you say anime-esque and not anime as heck, because I'm looking at Seventh Dragon 3. That is full-on anime. That's good too. When does this game come out? Came out 2020.
Oh no, it's not 2020. The name is called 2020, but it's not 2020.
We're living in the future. I forgot. Came out in 2015. Seventh Dragon 3 Code VFD.
I played Code VFD, so I would call it kind of like an Etrian Odyssey Light, but you don't make the maps because the map will slowly expand as you explore the world on the 3DS, because the second screen was the map. Then you have 3 starting party members, or rather frontline party members, 3 more sets of 3, so in total you will have 12. So the system was, you have your frontliners, and then at any point you could swap to the other 3 parties in the reserve. And those in the reserve aren't just sitting pretty either. You could use their skills and parley together, then you could abuse that and do some really massive damage or really great buffs.
Oh, so you can switch them in mid-combat like Pokemon.
Yeah, pretty much. So you could use that character's turn and switch to someone in the reserve. It was
that's straight up Pokemon, yeah.
So, as the name implies, you go up against dragons who are pretty much decimating the world. I believe the thing was called Dragon Bloom. So it's slowly taking over the world. It's gradually killing everyone with its infections. But I understand that Code VFT was actually kind of criticized because people didn't like where they took the story, since it was a sequel from the previous game and also the last game of the series. So they had some character changes, I suppose, and their motivations. Since I didn't know anything about the previous games, I just think that the story itself is a little bit on the weak side, and some of the bonus battles were, I suppose, as you expect, kind of bullshit. But it was I did enjoy it for however long it was, and there were certain plot moments that are like, damn, we really did that, huh?
I just want to point out, I'm on the wiki page for the Banisher class right now. And this is some peak... Because I assume you can have multiple characters like with different genders of the same class, right?
Yes.
So this is some peak like how to design for men and how to design for women. Because the men are these sick giant knights. They look freaking sick is what I'm mainly getting at. I love the helmet. If you know Lautrec from Dark Souls, it looks kind of like that but without the crown. Anyways, the girl has cat ears and thankfully her thighs are out. If this were Monster Hunter, like her whole ass would be out right now.
Well, the thing is with VFD, you could use any of the sprites for any of the classes, so you could have literal references to children's card games, being some grand old knight smacking people with cards. That's an option. One of my favorite sprites was the maid outfit, because she has a color palette like Sakuya from Toho Project.
God Hand, yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Yep. I mean, some, I guess you could consider them with the canonical class with their designs, but you're pretty free to do whatever. And also, one of the funniest things about the Seventh Dragon as a series is that 2020 had official Hatsune Miku collaboration, and there's an entire soundtrack.
Miku is the Seventh Dragon.
The entire soundtrack has a diva version, which means Hatsune Miku exists in the Seventh Dragon universe and she made the music. They didn't bring that back for the 3DS version for Code VFT, but it was a really fun trivia to know. Hatsune Miku!
Can't believe Miku is the Seventh Dragon.
I mean, she could be.
Yeah, and also Dragons 1 through 6. Anyways, I mean, I think it's obvious from how excited I was that that's obviously a pass. So I'll forward this email to Hideo Kojima and we'll see about bringing these games back. I'll remind him Digimon World 2 is a hard no. So that's it for us this week. Thank you so much for listening. If you're listening to it on Anchor or Spotify, don't forget to rate us. If you're listening to this on YouTube, like the video. If this hits 2K plays, we will do user suggested content. You can send an email to one@gamerbraves.com. Have a chance to get your question read out on air. Of course, I should preface this. Sending an email does not mean it will get read on air. Like, there is some moderation going on. Don't go sending me a bunch of slurs and then expecting me to read it online and be like, "Ooh, you said you'd read it on air." I was like, obviously I'm not going to do that. Anyways, this has been The Brave Room. We apologize for the dog in the background. Anything else you want to end on, Kit?
That was like 30 minutes of me gushing about kind of slightly obscure RPGs.
Oh, dude, Seven Dragon is obscure as heck.
Oh yeah, I just got it on a whim and I ended up liking it so much.
So yeah, that's it from us. See you.
See ya.